Hey, it's Tess, content creator, model, presenter, and host of the Tess Talks podcast, on a mission to ignite curiosity. It's been a hot minute since you've come into the studio. Well, you actually haven't been into the new studio.
I know, and I was your inaugural guest.
I know.
I was the one who got you fired up. Top 10 podcast, wasn't I? my episode. Good to be back.
Yeah.
Good to be back at Tessie Talks.
What do you think of the new setup?
Love it. It's so you. And I remember when you designed this room and the color palettes you wanted, and the micro cement, and obviously the trav, and just the whole visual identity for you. I think you nailed it. I know we're still waiting on.
Yeah, these caches are actually
changes.
not right.
No,
they throw off purple to me,
which is
me
not
out.
good for our color palette.
No,
because we're obsessed, as you know, with color palettes.
neutral
tones.
And neutral.
And this just throws us. But no, I think you've done a great job. It's a nice little space.
It's come together. I was very adamant about this micro cement wall, and it's like a slightly darker color. And I'm sorry for those of you who aren't watching on YouTube can't see, but it's a slightly darker color than the rest of our house and the walls. And it was a bit of a risk doing something different, considering our house is so like neutral and like light filled, but it's exactly how I envisaged, and has like beautiful texture. And yeah,
it's such a great product. I think we got really interested in it just based on Mediterranean look of it.
Yeah.
But we've also had issues with the product, as you know. And this is obviously in a dry area, and there's no issues here, but this is really for a wet area as well. And nothing against the installer, nothing against the actual product, but ultimately, like any project build, I think they were a bit rushed at the end. And unfortunately, our pool, and it's 6 months or 7. When did we move in? Was it 8 months ago?
We moved in only like 6 months ago, I think.
6 months.
Or 7 months, yeah.
Jeez, yeah. So 6 months, and the last defect, which is the pool, is just getting done this week. But
we thought, so basically what happened, because actually lots of people have asked about this type of material using like a polished render or a micro cement, and we're obsessed with it. And as you said, it does give that Mediterranean feel. I love that on that oh my God, what's that building show on Channel 7, Channel 9? They called it Master Chef.
Master Home.
Oh my God, what's that show called? The building show.
Oh, Block.
The Block. No, was it The Block, or what's the other one?
No, I thought it was the Channel 7 one, wasn't it?
No, it was The Block.
Oh,
it was The Block. Okay. And they called it last season Mediterranean.
Okay.
Which I feel like is actually what we've done. It's like modern Mediterranean. But anyway, lots of people have been asking about this material, and we absolutely love it. So our like shower is this beautiful like cave like Mediterranean kind of dome, which is so cool, out of the same material. And as you said, our pool was the exact same material, which looks fantastic. Like you can see photos of it online, and excitingly, our Vogue Living editorial is coming out, I think in June. So you'll be able to see like all the details there. But yeah, we've loved this material. But our pool, it was more so the waterproofing that was rushed. And I think it was rushed because we obviously had Romy on the way, and they were trying to get us into the house.
Although excuses for our builder.
In saying that, now I'm reflecting, I'm like, actually the pool was done like ages back, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened. But anyway, it's like the nature of the build. So it was bubbling. So they had to like drain our pool and basically start from scratch, the full coating.
Yeah.
And they thought it would take a couple of weeks, and it took, what was it, 3 months?
3 months, yeah. And look, the micro cement, like, and for your listeners, any product out there, there's different types of micro cement. So we'll give a shout out to this product type. It's called Semir, spelled CEHM for Mary ER. And it's actually the best for water-based services. So things like our master ensuite in the shower, and also the pool. So it's nothing with the product. It was actually the membrane behind the product wasn't proper water sealed or waterproofed, and therefore it came through the micro cement and started bubbling a bit on our infinity pool wall and within the spa. So had to drain it, had to redo it. But we've also got this product in really durable areas. We've got in the car park, which again gives that showroom look.
Yes.
This is obviously more of a matte finish. We have more of a satin finish in the car park. But it's a beautiful product. And I think it works really well with the travertine, also the floorboards as well, in terms of that color palette.
I think we should talk about some of our favorite materials because I know people are so fascinated. And like you and I were really lucky that through this whole process, like we really agreed on, I would say, honestly, 99% of the decisions.
Which the rest of our lives are like
that. Not that bad. I remember our architects early on, they were like, wow, like you guys are super aligned because this doesn't normally happen. I think I was trying to think back, like if we had any disagreements, I genuinely think the only real thing we disagreed on was you wanted like 8 garbage bins, like rubbish bins in the kitchen because you're sick of walking to the garbage bin outside all the time.
It's practical. I spend half my time going out to the garbage disposal.
But it gets stinky.
True.
And I was like, no, like tops 4. Anyway, I think I won.
But you know, we got our strengths, and obviously in terms of you understanding color palettes really well, I think I sort of bring a little bit of understanding of square meterage and space and bring those minds ahead. And materials, I think we just sort of explored that and we're curious in materials. I think we just didn't look at the first one and think it was the best.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time, as you know, went to showrooms and suppliers and really understood the material a bit more. Because generally at these meetings, you get thrown so much at once and you want to do your own research on it, making sure it does make sense. And as I said, there's different types of marbles, different types of travertine, floorboards, micro cement, renders, Venetian plaster. So it's really making sure we understand the material and how it all works. And we really took our time with that and worked not only with the builder, we also met the supplier of the trade or the trade specialist, which I think is really important as well. I think when you do a home build, the builder's one thing and you probably deal with a project manager and the builder. But if you really can get to the supplier, the expert, and ask them questions, I think it gives you the information and knowledge to make the right decision in terms of that execution and material as well.
And I think being really hands-on and building that rapport with the suppliers as well. Like we built such a good connection, I feel like, with everyone who was involved in the project. So like, for example, our stonemasonry was predominantly done by MSM Stone. And Zach, shout out, said to me early on, whatever you want, I can achieve. And I definitely gave him a few challenges. We replicated Kim Kardashian's bathroom sinks. So many people have come at me about this on TikTok saying it's actually Kanye's. Well, actually, they had it designed by someone else. So whatever, Kim still lives in the house, so I'm calling it her sinks, but with this beautiful, like curved, really subtle, inbuilt curve that makes the sink. So it's like kind of all really seamless. And like the engineering on that is immaculate. I know people are kicking up a stink online being like, oh my God, like that would spill everywhere. I can't imagine anything worse. It's like brushing my teeth over like, I don't know, a concrete slab. And I'm like, no, it is literally so well designed. I've never spilled anything. Water doesn't overflow. I would say it's so much more seamless than a standard like drop sink because you don't end up with like water splashing in areas it's like not supposed to be. It's like all kind of built in to be in the same area.
Yeah.
And then we've got all this amazing like curvature of stone. Like they've done so well with all the curvature in the house. And obviously that makes it a more costly exercise. But I think building the rapport with our suppliers and getting on really good terms with them has been amazing. We also created a custom floorboard color with custom timber. We were very particular about the type of color that we wanted for our floorboards. We didn't want it to throw off too much yellow undertone or too much pink undertone. So we created a hybrid of more of like a gray undertone based one that they had and then more of like a beachy kind of yellowy pink undertone one. We hybrided the two. It's now called the Sands board. It is available from Custom Timber and it is honestly like perfection, exactly what I had envisaged.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, we're really fortunate in terms of the quality of people we worked with, I think, through the build. Suppliers in terms of that direct relationship we had and probably at the end as well. I think you were definitely good cop. I was probably more bad cop throughout probably the last
like
6 to 12 months.
Intimidating cop.
Sometimes you need to be bad cop, especially in building. And but overall, though, I think we had a really good rapport and relationship with many people. I think the quality of people. And also, I do believe that the pursuit of excellence for their trade, they definitely want to deliver that. And even after we moved in and we had close to, and we probably rushed to move in because we wanted to get in. We were all stranded in Airbnbs and gave up our last place and obviously had Romy. I think we had close to 440 defects on our list. So that first 2 months was really how do we get through this quickly? But it was also beneficial because we're living here, even though it's not ideal, we actually managed the defects ourselves and get into the right level. But there's a lot of defects and far too many. But overall, the quality of the product in terms of the house, we're obviously so happy, and it was such a great process overall.
It's been a pretty incredible type of move in. Like we're 6-7 months of living here, and we still have people in every day, which I don't know that. Okay, one, I don't think we realize how much like upkeep and maintenance a large family home is, especially one that's like all neutral and light filled. But two, as you said, like just with all of the remaining things that had to get finished, like it has been like, rotating doors, like in and out all day long. Like it's actually been bananas. I feel like we haven't even fully like settled because every day we have different trades coming in. We've had like home organization who is people who are still like coming in and helping us. Landscapers, like maintenance things. Like it's pretty full on.
I think we'd be surprised. Like I think obviously when you build a big home, the upkeep is huge. And I think now we've sort of got more of a cadence with them in terms of when they're coming in and what they're doing. But overall, it requires a lot of maintenance work.
Yes, a lot of time.
You build a big home and it needs constant support. So definitely surprised us.
Yeah. Is there anything throughout the whole build that you think, one, was a risk that paid off, or two, that we probably wouldn't do again?
The risk that paid off, which I think was pure innovation, and we really pushed this, was the lower ground. And I don't like calling it a basement because our vision was to ensure that the lower ground had plenty of light. And that alfresco area down the bottom really portrays light across both the entertainment room and the theatre room, but also the gym. But more than that, we actually pushed the basement towards the whole road. So the full block was a lower ground of our full block. So I think to build that level of innovation and engineering on a lower ground really maximized our block and maximized that level. And it's such a destination going down there in terms of our gym and theatre room and the hotel guest room. It's such a beautiful space. So to do that and to maximize that block, and I think we got some inspiration from smaller blocks in, say, London, who built down so much and maximized their blocks. So we thought, why don't we just maximize the full block of our site and build a lower ground that is really maxed out? And we did that. So the engineering of that, full credit to the team of engineering, full credit to McKim and execution. But it was really our vision to get that done. I think it's just really finished off the house so well.
And I think there was like a few areas for us that we were like, we really want to maximize spaces that we feel like are often like really important spaces, but often overlooked. So for example, like our master walk-in robe is the size of a master bedroom in itself. And that was never supposed to be.
That was your vision.
Actually, I think it was your vision. I keep getting thrown under the bus for this one, but you have as many clothes as I do. So
I don't know about that.
Anyway, you give me a good run for my money. But originally it was like, designed to have an upstairs sitting room at the top of our stairs. And we were like, well, we've already got a couple TV areas, and like who really ever uses that upstairs sitting area? And so we were like, just axe that and like extend the wardrobe. But the thing is, the wardrobe has become such a destination. And for us, like we love fashion, we love getting ready. It's really nice getting ready in the mornings, but also like getting ready to like go out with friends and like making that like a real moment. That's another area we like maximize space. And I think there's a couple more areas like that we were like in homes. Oh, laundry is another big one. I feel like often laundries are very like pockety and not like well thought out, but like you spend so much time in the laundry, especially if you have like a big family. So that's why we incorporated like the double washer dryer. That's why we ensured that we had like a bigger drying room, heaps of storage, because we hate stuff being out. Like the last thing we wanted was to bring out, you know, like clothing racks and have them like in the lounge room and like all our clothes, you know, hanging everywhere. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get the exact size we wanted of the laundry space. It probably isn't one area that could have been a little bit bigger. But I think that they're often areas that are overlooked that we do spend so much time in.
True. And I think the opposite of that, bigger is not necessarily better as well. So I think the square meterage of the rooms and what you've got as a house, it's just going to make sense from a practical sense.
Yeah.
And even though this home's large, I think all that feedback from family and friends have been here is it feels warm and engaging.
Still feels really homely.
It does,
cozy.
which I think was really important for us because you build a big home and it feels quite empty and impractical to a degree. So, but really overall, the contentious, yes, I think our level 1 with the bedrooms, could you do another sitting room, which you decided not to do that, which most houses probably would do that. But we thought we got so many entertainment rooms and TVs already.
Yep.
Do we really need another TV room in our bedroom floor? I think in hindsight, just because of now having Romy and hopefully building a bigger family over time, the kids area is something that I probably look back on we probably didn't nail.
Yeah.
Very adult house, which is great, but now seeing Romy crawl, which is amazing, and seeing her grow every day and her just grabbing things and eating things, and students should be drawing on walls, and my OCD is just got to have the patience to look at this. But ultimately...
But also the amount of marble, like I'm so worried about her smashing her face on a coffee table or something.
We're going to have a good kid who understands good materials. But I think having a kid's room in particular would have been an amazing room. And I think we could potentially still do that. But I would look at the house now. We probably just don't have that within the home, and we didn't really plan for that. It's obviously evolved a lot. When I first bought this site, it was a vision for myself, and the house has changed a lot since then. I don't know if your listeners want to hear that, but geez, I had fire in the house and I had waterfalls going on.
Sean's initial proposal
had fish ponds in
drew
there.
up flames like some
Fire
LA
and water.
ritzy restaurant.
I don't know, but I was getting inspiration from LA.
There was a water feature, running water behind the master bed head.
It's definitely evolved with Tess being on board, but that happens, and I think you evolve as a person in needs and wants. But I think the kids side is something we'll probably need to look at over the next few years on how we're going to manage that. And we're so excited about the handover with our Byron Bay property, our holiday home there.
Yeah.
And we probably learnt a little bit from here, and we maximise that a lot more, having a kids specific area.
It's a lot more kid friendly.
Rumpus room. Drawing tables.
In fact, the whole location we purchased because the area is kid friendly,
exactly.
and walkable.
Yeah. So that's really exciting. So I think we definitely learned a couple of things from that process.
Hey mamas and mamas to be, if you're growing a tiny human and looking for comfort that doesn't sacrifice style, then let me put you onto Bumpsuit. Bumpsuit is the holy grail of maternity wear, designed by mums for mums. Whether you're running errands, hitting a yoga class, or just living in leggings, we see you. Bumpsuit has you covered, literally. Their buttery soft, stretchy fabric moves with you from bump to baby and beyond. And the best part is these pieces are so chic, you'll want to keep wearing them even after your pregnancy. We're talking bodysuits, dresses, support wear, you name it. Celeb mums love it, and honestly, you will too. Now I have to shout out the Kate. Yes, that's the name of one of their signature styles, and it was my go-to throughout my entire pregnancy. It hugged in all the right places, it gave me the support I needed, and made me feel confident, even on those days when I really didn't feel like getting dressed at all. And once baby arrived, I practically lived in their Live in the Cloud collection. It's exactly what it sounds like. Insanely soft, cozy, and so effortless. Perfect for those postpartum days when comfort is key, but you still want to feel like you. Oh, and the Armadillo baby carrier. It's a total game changer. It's sleek, supportive, and functional without looking bulky. Whether I was just out for a walk or trying to get things done around the house, it kept Bubs close and my hands free. And also, let's not forget about the support waist trainer. That thing helped me feel held, supported, and strong during my recovery, and it really made such a difference. So if you're you're on the motherhood journey and you want to look and feel amazing every step of the way, head to bumpsuit.com and use bumpsuitmama15 for 15% off your first order. That's bumpsuitmama15 spelt bumpsuit MAMA 15 for 15% off your first order. I'll put all the details in the show notes below. Bumpsuit, because motherhood should look as good as it feels. Okay, so for anyone that's like embarking on, let's say, either like a home reno or a home build journey, or even we can touch on people that are like looking at getting into the property market, I think it'd be really cool for us to talk about like some of our biggest like tips and recommendations.
It really depends upon the house cost and overall project cost, but I would strongly recommend, and generally if you're definitely borrowing as well, banks would strongly recommend this as well. Having some sort of surveyor, quantity independent person is really important. And I think for our house build, one regret I do have, we definitely had an independent person to help give us independent advice, feedback on the project management.
Yeah.
And we had full-time project managers here representing from the builder, but they reported back into us and making sure that it was on time, on budget, quality, defects, and manage that. But it's only once a month. And I think for such a big build and spending what we did on this home, I would have had someone who's a bit more part to full time even, just based on what we spent. So but that's obviously not feasible for everyone, but it is feasible to have someone to come in at least independently to look at things. And I think the critical stages are waterproofing.
Yeah.
The critical stages when you pour concrete.
Yeah.
The critical stages are when you build the framework, and just checking those points. And I think you put a bit of risk on it. So generally, it's the most expensive thing you'll ever do in your life, and the biggest asset you probably have as well. So it's very important to have that independent advice, and there's plenty of people or plenty of businesses that provide that. And I think it's a really good thing. It might cost a little bit more overall, and from a project consultant point of view, but it just gives
you in the long run.
Save you a lot in the long run.
Sure, you're getting the right kind of
and finish. Even just reconciling accounts. Like I think that's really important. Now, depends if your listeners on a fixed contract or a cost plus percentage. It's very important to reconcile it. Like you must do it in terms of having someone to do it yourself, reconciling invoices, or having someone independently reconcile it. Because people make mistakes as well in terms of administration. So I think that's really important to making sure you have that financial nous on it. And the quality as well is critical.
Yeah. And I think also from a design perspective as well, like even though, you engage experts to do the drawings and do the designs, there's still things that can like slip up. And obviously we were quite pedantic and OCD around like dimensions of the house and everything. But I'm really glad that we were, because there's a lot of things we changed. And I think like being really across dimensions and drawings is really important when doing like renovations or anything, and thinking about like how you really like utilize the space. Like, we've had drawers that have been like too narrow for like my makeup, or like initial drawings of like things that, in the wardrobe, are your shirts going to like overhang, or are they going to have enough space before, the next shelf? So it's like little things like that, which yes, like the experts generally can get right, but not always. And so I think like triple checking every element and not just like blindly trusting like drawings and things that you're handed over. Yeah.
And also, as you probably know, I was obsessed with getting my tape measure out. Yeah, and sometimes I would get up at 12 o'clock at night and measure something.
In our old apartment, Shaun would literally get up at like midnight and be like, wait, I just have to check something. And he'd go and get the tape measure, and he would be like standing on one end of the living room and like going to the other end.
There's my OCD again. But I think like though it's quite, and dimensions are a little bit subjective. I think there's best practice, definitely, and you need to look at that. But also sometimes there's always give and take in dimensions. So really about understanding, okay, if I take a little bit from there, what does it actually give? And for me, practically, for ourselves or our family, is that a better option? So that's why I think it's really important to understand dimensions across each room, and the practical things like storage and cabinetry, most importantly as well. But something, I've always said, I find it very surprising if I speak to a real estate agent and I ask about square meterage and they can't answer me in 2 seconds, I'll just walk away. Because that is the number one important thing of building a house or buying a house is understand that product.
Yeah.
And I find it very strange still in today's age, and nothing against real estate agents, I'm sure most of them do know it, but who don't understand their product. And it's really important that you, as a consumer, when you buy a house or build a house, you really understand that and you get the right information quickly.
Okay, well, let's talk about that then. Like, people trying to get into the property market because it's only getting harder and harder. Cost of living is getting pretty out of control. And now it's projected that, you know, say Romi's like age demographic, by the time she's older, most people won't be in like the market of owning their own property. So what would be some of like your advice, because I know you're really invested in this, on people who are initially now thinking, okay, we're going to start looking again into the property market really soon. What are some of your initial suggestions?
From a government point of view or from a individual point of view?
I think both.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I am quite passionate by this, and I think in Australia in particular, everyone's dream is to own a house, which I think it's an amazing dream we all have. The issue with that dream is that we're really tied up to debt for a long period of time. Australia's actually got the 4 big banks in Australia are the richest banks in the world. I think four of the top 10. Commonwealth Bank's got the biggest market cap. They pull in about 50 billion in profit last financial year. The difference between the cash rate to the interest rates that they set are the biggest in the world. We don't have any lending outside of the 4 big banks really. And I think Blackstone's CEO, when he came out to Australia, he mentioned that big time. And why isn't there more competition here in terms of lending? Now, you need strong banks, and we all know that through the GFC. It's super important we've got strong banks. But to have the most profitable banks in the world, and for the Commonwealth Bank to be the largest bank in the world by market cap with 23 million people, it does not make sense. But Australians have always seemed to just agree to it. And I think that's an issue. I think it'll be an issue, but maybe it's not bursting now, but eventually will. So we need to look at that, definitely, from a lending side, from a competition point of view.
When you say bursting though, how do you see that unfolding in the next couple of decades?
I just think that Australians, just based on globalization, what everyone actually sees the rest of the world, that these things will change. And debt levels can't just keep going at the household point of view. We can't see property prices continually go up. We remortgage it or get a larger mortgage. Wage to house ratio is the biggest ever been in the last 30 years and continue to keep going up. I remember my dad keeps telling me this, back in the 60s and 70s, even the 50s, his dad, my grandpa, middle class, owned a place in Middle Park. Again, wasn't that affluent back then, but also a holiday house. He was a small size business person.
Yeah.
Had news agents. But look,
small business or one sole income, and you were able to
do that.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a cost of living crisis around the world, especially in the Western countries. So it's not just Australia, but Australia has got the fortunate point of view of land, and we've got to get more supply. And I think we really got to look at the planning cycle, and in particular in Victoria, things just take far too long to get done, and too costly. And cost is another thing. I think when we talk about inflation, we talk about material costs and what COVID did to that, but ultimately we need supply. It's supply and demand, and we need to build things and quicker. Now, I think Jim Chalmers came out a couple of years ago with his housing plan, but really I think they built 300 homes. They've got to be quicker in doing this and make it more accessible for people. So how do we fix the supply issue? How do we ensure we've got interest rate that's competitive and we've got more lending? We really help it. And obviously there's going to be short-term things going to happen. And in any economic environment, there's going to be hiccups. We've had COVID, we've had GFC, we've had dot-com crisis, we had high recession back in the 90s. There's always going to be every 10 years, 15 years. Unfortunately, there seems to be something that will occur. And that's the time when government steps in, stimulus packages and whatnot. But at the moment, we need to have a system in place that is better for the consumer and that dream. Because really what's happening is rents just going up because people can't afford their home. So the rental market is so competitive. So the landlords will put up the rent up and continue to do that, especially in Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane, in these cities. So it needs to be addressed because what the concern will be is that who will support these mortgages. Generally, I think the biggest lender outside the banks, I read this the other day, are parents. And that's a lot of responsibility on parents to help their kids. And I know every parent would want to do that, but not every parent can do that.
Yeah.
And also like to think they want their own retirement as well. So it is an issue. And I think it's not as clear and transparent as it should be, especially in the younger demographics. And it definitely needs to be addressed at a government level. And I think our leaders, what I see from my point of view, there is a lack of vision to a degree, but they can't communicate it well. And I think you want to have leaders that step up and communicate a message that's really clear. And if you look at our federal elections that just occurred, and you look at two of our candidates, really, look, besides their policy differences, 80% of it is quite similar. They might have some differences in energy, might be some differences the way I look at tax or cost of living. I think the biggest issue we have, even at a state level, and I look at the disarray that the Liberal Party is in Victoria and also at a federal level, is that they need to have stronger leaders to speak to their policy. And even look at some of the members that are in Parliament now, they still can't articulate as strongly as they should. So I think it's really important that from a leadership side, how do we attract talent in politics and really communicate a message as well? But I think it's really important for our generation, because our generation is so curious. Podcasts, social media, the amount of content that goes out, people get a little bit confused what's right and wrong. So it's really making sure our leaders use that well and really clear in the message and how it's going to ensure economic or socioeconomic growth in our country, but also provide the right security for us in the years to come.
Yeah, it's a real shame at the moment because there really is no one like super inspiring. And also with Victoria, I think we're in like such disarray after COVID. Like we're in so much debt, and I just think like, yes, it's all good and well to say all this stuff, but I feel like we're so restricted with what like our state government can do here anyway because of the amount that we're in, and that's going to be around for generations. And I think that's also what a lot of people didn't realize during COVID. It's like all good and well to keep like locking down and protecting the elderly and stuff, but now like this is going to carry on for so many generations that our kids are still going to be witnessing. So it's just like so many elements at the moment that I think are causing like a disarray in the whole political system here.
Yeah, and that's the concern I think with short-sighted policies. And I disagree with a 3-year term. I think it should be 4 years, because I think there's enough chance for that party to deliver on their policies or their vision they set out. So I think I'd definitely change that, look more of an American model on that in terms of midterms, because really people need a bit more time to deliver that. But these short-sighted policies that get votes and just wasting money, throwing money around. And also it's so selfish, and this is what really frustrates me. It is such a selfish thing to do because people say, oh, we need it. We need it now. I say, well, it's actually going to hurt our kids and their kids' future. What you're borrowing now, they're not going to get the infrastructure. They're going to get the new schools and new health funding. They don't get the social security we've had. So you just take and think that's okay. That's a real issue. And I think we need to have a bit more of a long-term vision. That's why we need politicians who can do that. Because now being a parent and looking at Romy, I want to make sure she gets the support like we've did to a certain degree through our childhood. And I'm concerned by that in terms of the state of our public transport, our infrastructure funding, what we're developing. We haven't done a decent train line in 70 years. They were all done 70 years ago. Like that. Look at the
better
vision.
In the early 1900s.
Look at the vision we had when the Harbour Bridge was built. Harbour Bridge was built with friggin' 8 lanes.
Yeah.
Like we just don't have that vision anymore. So I think just need leaders who speak to generations and understand there's going to be stages a little bit tougher than others. That's part of a cycle. But I think if people can trust that message and understand that message better, I think everyone will be better off.
So before we move on, let's just quickly touch back on like the rental market versus property owning. Where do you kind of see it going in the next decade? And what is like your recommendation? Like obviously in Europe, it's a lot more of a rental market over there. Is that clearly the way that we're heading? Do you think that, the younger generation aren't going to be able to even enter the property market? Like, what do you recommend? Should people be looking at renting, or because rent's so high, should they be looking at like getting into property sooner? Like, what do you think?
I think a per capita basis, I saw this the other day actually, that home ownership in Australia is nearly at the levels out of America. So it's declining big time over the last 15 years in particular. So it's around that 65% mark per capita. So there is definitely an issue there in terms of home affordability. And there's an acceptance now that people just won't have a deposit based on their wage to buy a first home. There's probably not enough support there from a stimulus government point of view, and therefore where they're going to live. And a lot of people really choose to live in an area where they either grow up or they're closer to their work, and therefore they're not really pushed out 100, 200 kilometers away as well. So there is a lifestyle choice there, which is really important. So there's a fundamental issue there. Where I see it heading, as I said, if I don't think we fix two of those really important levers about supply and looking at these lending providers, are just going to keep going. So it will be a rental market. And I think there is an issue that certain, not all landlords, but definitely just based on market price, that rents will just keep going up. And it's no fault of the landlord, to be honest. Ultimately, they want to be paying a market price. And a lot of these landlords too, they have huge land tax bills now as their second or third properties, where it may be. And therefore, they need to cover their costs. And in particular in Victoria, land tax is the highest in the country. So there's an issue there. If you don't have landlords, then you don't have people buying homes either. So it's really important we understand that economically. But yeah, it is concerning. But also, is it the Australian dream anymore to own a home? Is this the new world that, you know what, I want the flexibility. I want to rent in Melbourne for a period of time of my life. I want to go to Sydney. I want to go overseas. I can work from wherever on a lot of these jobs these days as well. So maybe there's a lifestyle shift and change. And maybe owning a home is not the ultimate dream for a lot of people. And I actually do see that. I think we've seen that from our friends who have gone overseas and chose a different life or want to move up north and exploring a different city. So I think that might be a cultural trend that could actually be more permanent as well.
Potentially, but I also think like owning a property is a really nice like long-term security for later in life. Like you do see, and I've seen it with people that I know in their older years who don't own property, and it can kind of get harder at that point because you don't know like where your life can kind of turn. And yes, it's all good and well to like have investments and stuff, but I feel like land is always a relatively like safe investment.
Historically, I completely agree with you, and I think it is a safe bet. But historically, if you look at it from a share market ETF point of view, put them just in a general fund, you probably do better over a share market over time, the last 30 years. That's compounding. A lot of costs associated with running a home. So financially, a bit of both ways in that. I'm not saying it's not the right move. And obviously, a lot of people made a huge bit of money out of owning real estate as well. So that's more of a business, not necessarily a personal asset. So look, I think that things could potentially, especially in these major cities, and if you look at Sydney, Sydney, Melbourne, I'll probably have to fact check this, but I do believe that Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, which was surprising, Brisbane and Perth, those cities are in the top 12 cities, most expensive cities in the world.
Yeah, you're right. I read this. Yeah.
From a wage to house price ratio.
Yeah.
So I think Sydney is potentially going to overtake Hong Kong this year. So it's just incredible that a country like ours, that we're supposed to be the lucky country, we just really can't get into the housing market these days for a lot of people. So as I said to you, I don't like using the word bubble will burst or crisis, but I think it's something we'll have to change drastically over time because people, it just can't keep going up as well as it is. And it is also the wrong upward trend for so many people in this country.
Thanks so much for listening. If you loved the episode, please subscribe, rate and review. It honestly means so much and helps to keep these conversations going. And I'd love to connect with you. You can message me on Instagram or TikTok, and I've left all the details from the episode in the show notes below. I'll see you next week.